me start with a promise. By the end of this episode, you will understand yourself, your partner, and your kids in a way no TikTok trend could ever duplicate. We're not talking about quirks or vibes. We're talking about the fundamental operating system of the human brain. And for some of you, tonight, we're going to hand you a map to a brain you've always felt was alien. Because whether you're constantly fighting your own brain to focus, desperately trying to understand unspoken social rules, or navigating a world that just feels too loud, too bright, and too much, you're not alone. And more importantly, you are not broken, my dudes. For decades, society called it lazy. They said you were rude. They called it weird, maybe antisocial. Yeah, society's stupid. Psychology called it disordered. But today, the science is much more clear. For millions, their brain simply runs on different hardware. And tonight, we're going to dive deep into the neurodivergent nexus, ADHD, autism, and the fascinating, often misunderstood intersection of the two, AuDHD. And here's my promise to you, right? Here's my promise right now. In the first freaking minutes, I'm going to give you 3 red flag checklists. One for the ADHD, one for autism, and one for AuDHD that you can use to identify if these neurotypes resonate with your lived experience. I mean, guys, these aren't diagnostic tools. They are powerful mirrors. This isn't about slapping labels. Look, we don't do that here. We are not slapping labels on people. It is about understanding your unique operating system. Because when you understand the machine, you can stop fighting it and you can start optimizing it, baby. Come on now, plant that thought. Let's go ahead and start with ADHD. Forget what you think you know from sitcoms or those insufferable memes, right? Forget what you learned on TikTok. ADHD isn't a deficit of attention. It's a deficit of regulation. Your brain has all the attention in the world. It just can't point where it needs to go, when it needs to go there, and for how long it needs to actually be there. I mean, I know that's my problem, right? I do not know how long I should stay on one topic. I mean, my brain's like a Ferrari engine with a rusted handbrake. I'm all over the freaking place. I've got a high quality software running this piece, and I don't even know how to use it half the time. And so we're going to do a neuroscience deep dive. Let's look at the dopamine drought, right? Let's look at the executive dysfunction, because at its core, ADHD is a neurotransmitter dysregulation, particularly involving dopamine, our favorite, and norepinephrine, our other favorite. And it's all in this place we call the prefrontal cortex. And this is your brain's CEO. It's responsible for executive functioning, planning, prioritizing, working memory, impulse control, emotional regulation. I mean, this thing does it all, unless you've got ADHD. In ADHD, there's a consistent dopamine drought. And what does that mean? I mean, if you have a dopamine drought in your prefrontal cortex, right? I mean, this is the motivation molecule. This is crucial for reward pathways and sustaining effort. And without it, the brain struggles to initiate tasks that aren't inherently novel, exciting, or urgent. It's why tasks like doing taxes feel like climbing Everest. But a new hyper-focus project, this can consume you for days, baby. This isn't laziness. It's a neurochemical reality, my guys. And that brings us to, some of the behavioral and cognitive manifestations. I mean, think of the classic triad, right? Inattention. Not just daydreaming, but task switching back and forth constantly. Imagine trying to read a book while 17 other books simultaneously open themselves to random pages in your mind. I mean, difficulty sustaining focus on non stimulating tasks, organizational challenges, forgetfulness in daily activities. Where did I put my keys again? Hmm. I mean, if I walk through a door, I forgot everything from the past 6 days. Then you've got hyperactivity. And I mean, this is often a misidentified in adults, right? I mean, it's not always bouncing off the walls. That is not what hyperactivity means. It can actually be an internal restlessness. Internal. Some people don't even know what's going on, right? It's a constant need to be doing something, right? Something, anything. Fidgeting, incessant talking, difficulty staying seated, feeling driven by a motor. I mean, these all go into that. And then you've got impulsivity, right? Making fast, hasty decisions without considering the consequences, interrupting other people, difficulty waiting your turn, blurting out your thoughts. Sorry, guys, I've got it bad. And let's be honest, this is often linked to impaired emotional regulation, which unfortunately leads to quicker temper flares, intense reactions on stuff that probably didn't require that intensity. Sorry, kids. Then there's the misinformation epidemic, right? ADHD isn't real. Kids just need to put down their phones. Yeah, shut up, boomer. I'm done with you people, right? Look at our current country. That's what we got from you freaks. How about you shut up and let the real professionals do the talking for a change? I mean, look, if someone says everyone has trouble concentrating sometimes, yeah, just disregard them, right? This dismisses a genuine neurobiological condition as a moral failing or as a sign of poor parenting. I mean, the politicization of ADHD medication, often framed as designer drugs for college students. This ignores the profound quality of life improvements for diagnosed individuals. It's like telling someone with diabetes to just think positively about their blood sugar. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. They're stuffing Twinkies in their mouth, and you're telling them to have positive thinking? It is insulting and dangerous. All right, look, here's your first mirror. These are not diagnostic, but if they resonate, it is definitely a flag, right? ADHD red flag checklist, if you will. Number one, do you constantly struggle to start tasks you find boring, even if they're really important? Yeah, I do. Do you often find yourself interrupting others or blurting out thoughts? Yeah, I do. Do you experience intense internal restlessness or a constant need to fidget? Maybe. Is your emotional regulation highly inconsistent with quick shifts from calm to intense? Heck yeah! Do you frequently lose things, forget appointments, or have trouble with time management despite trying hard? Yeah. I mean, I literally had a woman at work who dedicated her entire life to making sure I remembered what I was supposed to be doing that day. I mean, thanks, honey, but it didn't work. Do you often feel like your brain has 10 tabs open at once, making it hard to focus on one? If so, you might have ADHD. But again, I'm not diagnosing you. I'm just telling you the truth, baby. All right. Let's go ahead and shift gears to the autism, right? The world's manual isn't your language. Got it? That's the bottom line. The world has given you a manual and it is not even in your language. And that's autism. So let's talk about this. I mean, for too long, the public image has been driven by caricatures and outdated stereotypes. Autism isn't a lack of empathy, dorks. It's often a different expression of empathy, dorks, and a profound struggle with unwritten, ever-changing social codes of the neurotypical society that they live in, dorks. Imagine being handed a complex instruction manual for life, right? But it's in a language no one else seems to realize isn't universal. Look, let's take a deep dive here, right? Deep dive on the connectivity and the sensory processing, because that's really where there's some real problems here for the autistic individual. I mean, research points to differences in brain connectivity, particularly in the white matter, which affects, I guess, how different regions communicate, right, of the brain. This can impact neural pathways. So these pathways involved in things like social cognition, right? Sensory processing. And when this happens, autistic brains often have an atypical sensory experience, right? It's either hyper or hypo, right? So you might have hypersensitivity to light, sound, texture, taste, any of these things, right? Imagine fluorescent lights, right? Now imagine if every time you were around fluorescent lights, they were buzzing like a beehive. I mean, this is like a swarm of bees, right? Or it's like that tag in your shirt, right? That little dude in the back. Well, like, why you put these here? Imagine that feels like sandpaper on your back all day. I mean, the world isn't just loud, it is a sensory assault. And this can lead to frequent meltdowns, right? Because of overload or shutdowns, which looks like withdrawal. Now, these are often differences in processing social cues, right? Impacting their ability to intuitively read nonverbal communication, things like facial expressions, body language, right? I mean, there's also behavioral and cognitive manifestations. I mean, there are, right? Social communication differences, not a lack of desire for connection, but difficulty initiating or maintaining conversations. I mean, understanding sarcasm or idioms, making eye contact, or engaging in that reciprocal back and forth that, most people do pretty reasonably and easily. Now, this isn't rudeness. It's just a different way that the brain is processing the social data. People showing autism often show restricted or repetitive behaviors or interests, right? And I mean, it can manifest as intense, deep focus on specific topics. I mean, these are often called special interests. There's a need for routines, right? Predictability or repetitive physical movements, stimming, they call it, like hand flapping or rocking, these types of things. And what these things do is they serve as self regulation tools, right? For the person with autism. These aren't obsessions, right? They're not compulsions. They're often sources of comfort. I mean, they're sources of joy and a way to manage that super overwhelming world, right? And what about that world? I mean, as mentioned a minute ago, there is an extreme sensitivity or insensitivity to sensory input. And this can lead to discomfort or really seeking specific sensations. This is often a very misunderstood part of autism. But unfortunately, once again, just like with ADHD, we've got a bunch of jerk offs out there in the media talking about, autism like they know what they're talking about. They don't. For instance, the autism is caused by vaccines myth. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you stupid? There is no research that shows that. Or the whole they lack empathy trope, right? I mean, or the pervasive stereotype of the savant. They must all be really good at math. Is that like Rain Man? No, these narratives are harmful. They deny autistic individuals their humanity. They create social barriers and distract from effective support. Come on, what happened, America? I mean, look, the rise of high functioning versus low functioning, right? These labels are super problematic. And researchers do not use these labels when they talk about the autistic individual or the autistic brain because it ignores the vast spectrum and often invisible struggles of those who mask their autistic traits. And they do this to fit in, right? This masking is emotionally exhausting and it leads to burnout. All right, time for your second mirror. Again, these are the flags, not a diagnosis. So here's the autism red flag checklist, if you will. And again, they're not red flags, they're just you, maybe. Number one, do you often feel like you're missing unspoken social cues or the subtext in a conversation? Nah. Do you have intense, specific interests that you could talk about for freaking hours? Sometimes to the exclusion of other topics? I mean, are you really into painting little Warhammer 40K miniatures and you'll tell everybody about it for as long as they'll listen? And then when they stop, you'll keep going. Yeah, I do. Are you highly sensitive to certain sensory inputs, loud noise, bright light, specific textures? Well, I mean, look, if I'm at a concert, people touching me all the time, it kind of gets annoying. Do you prefer routines, predictability? Do you find unexpected change very distressing? Oh, hell yeah. I do not like changes happening unless I've planned for that change. Come on. Okay, I like change, but it does stress me out. Do you struggle with eye contact or find it uncomfortable in social situations? If any of these things fit, you're autistic. No, I kid, I kid. You're not autistic. You might be. Maybe you should go get checked out. Your brain's just different. What about AUDHD? The neurodivergent whirlwind, if you will. So now we enter the fascinating, often chaotic, and deeply misunderstood intersection, right? AUDHD, AuDHD. This is where the magnetic, energetic, interest driven brain of ADHD meets the sensory processing and social communication differences of autism. It's not a little bit of both. It's a unique neurotype with its own set of strengths and challenges, often creating an internal tug of war. So, what is going on at the brain level? What's going on down deep in the neuroscientific part of that brain? All right, conflicting needs and compensatory mechanisms. That's what's going on. And the research on AUDHD as a distinct neurological profile, it is still emerging. But what we observe are brains with simultaneous and often contradictory drives. The ADHD brain, it craves novelty, right? Stimulation, rapid task switching, while the autistic brain craves predictability, routine, immersion in specific interests. And this can lead to intense internal conflict, right? Your brain is constantly trying to compensate for this conflict. For example, the ADHD impulsivity might make an autistic person over engage in social settings, leading to extreme burnout, right? Or the autistic need for routine might be constantly undermined by the ADHD struggle with initiation and follow through. It's like having a hyperactive engine, right? Trying to drive a car that also desperately needs to stay on a very specific, unchanging track. And then you've got the behavioral and cognitive manifestations, right? The masking paradox. AUDHDers, AuDHDers often develop highly sophisticated, yet utterly exhausting masking strategies. The ADHD desire for social connection, it might drive them to mimic neurotypical behavior, while the autistic brain might struggle with the genuine intuitive understanding. And this can lead to an immense social fatigue. You want to get involved, but you don't. You don't really know what's going on. You can't really read the cues. This is exhausting. And then there's avoidance and sensory seeking, right? You might simultaneously seek intense sensory input, ADHD desire for stimulation, while being overwhelmed by the common sensory experience, autism sensitivity. For example, craving loud music but hating fluorescent lights. Yeah, okay. Name me a concert that doesn't have both. And then there's the hyper focus, right? The task switching. They can achieve incredible hyper focus on special interests. But the ADHD impulsivity, it might actually lead to jumping between these interests fairly rapidly, leaving a trail of unfinished projects, right? Now, emotional dysregulation and burnout can happen. The constant internal conflict, the masking, right, can lead to heightened emotional dysregulation, frequent meltdowns, shutdowns, right? The profound burnout from the sheer effort of existing in this neurotypical world that doesn't even see you as you should be seen. I mean, it must be exhausting. And the biggest myth out there is that you can't have both. This is a false dichotomy, often led by, misdiagnosis or people who should not be running the CDC, for instance. I mean, as symptoms of one condition are attributed to the other, right? Or one masks the other. I mean, for instance, an autistic individual might not receive an ADHD diagnosis because their meticulous routines, which is their autistic trait, right? And it might mask their internal inattention, which is their ADHD trait. Or an ADHD individual might not be diagnosed with autism because their social impulsivity might be misinterpreted as a desire for connection rather than a struggle with social nuance. And this erasure of the AUDHD individual makes it incredibly hard for them to get the appropriate support. All right, so here's your third mirror, the AuDHD experience. What are the red flags? Do you experience intense internal conflict between a desire for routine and a craving for novelty? Two, are you highly sensitive to sensory input, but also sometimes seek intense stimulation like loud music, fast activities, these types of things? Hmm? Number three, do you exhaust yourself masking in social situations, often feeling like you're performing a role? Do you have deep special interests, but also struggle to maintain focus on them? For consistent periods due to distraction. Squirrel, squirrel, Huh? Do you experience frequent, intense burnout from the effort of managing your daily life? Do you sometimes find that your ADHD traits make your autistic traits harder to manage, and vice versa? Guys, there is help out there. Let's talk about the medication, right? Specifically ADHD medication, right? Because that's what you're really going to be taking it for. Because this is where the ignorant masses, right, and the normie nerds really show their ass. The science of stimulants, if you will, right? I mean, look, medications like Adderall or Ritalin, they're not speed for the neurotypical brains, but for ADHD brains, they work by increasing dopamine and norepinephrine in the prefrontal cortex, bringing these levels closer to a neurotypical baseline. Now, this isn't about getting high, right? Ooh, I love my Ritalin. It's about giving the brain the necessary fuel to engage in executive functioning. And if you're at Harvard and you're taking this stuff to help with exams, shame on you. Shame on you. You're a pathetic, cheating loser. I mean, guys, it's like giving glasses to someone who's nearsighted, right? It brings the world into focus. It enables them to function effectively. They need this stuff. And for many, it's the difference between chronic failure and consistent productivity, between emotional dysregulation and calm, between a chaotic internal world and a manageable one. And now, this brings me to the absolute worst kind of intellectual dishonesty out there. The neurotypical student or biohacker who takes ADHD medication to concentrate better or pull an all nighter, right? Let me be crystal clear. You are abusing a necessary therapeutic tool, you tool. For a neurotypical brain, these medications can indeed increase focus, but they can also bring things like anxiety. And I mean, that ain't fun. Insomnia, cardiovascular. I mean, it literally has an impact on your heart, right? Cardiovascular strain. And I mean, guys, these drugs have the potential for serious addiction. I mean, look, you're hijacking a system that doesn't need fixing, and you're doing it for a temporary performance boost at the expense of diluting the understanding and legitimacy of ADHD as a real disabling condition. You're literally making the world a worse place. Thanks, dorks. I hope you did so well on that Harvard exam, and now you're going to work in business where you're going to crash the economy because you don't know jack. Unless I take more Ritalin. Look, you're not being smart, right? You're being a selfish, short-sighted, opportunistic turd. And you make it harder for genuinely struggling individuals to access the care they need without judgment. Grow up, loser. Now, there are other medications and therapies as well, right? For autism or AUDHD, medication is typically not, it is not for the core neurotype itself, right? You're not treating their personality, their brain, right? You're doing it for co-occurring conditions like anxiety, depression, severe sensory overload, these types of things. Because again, there's nothing wrong with the neurodivergent brain. It's just different from the normies, right? And quite frankly, sometimes it seems like a superpower. I mean, extreme pattern recognition? I wish. You've got things like CBT, behavioral therapies, cognitive behavioral therapy, or DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. These are actually incredibly helpful for developing the coping mechanisms, social skills, things like this, and your emotional regulation strategies that are tailored to neurodivergent processing. The goal isn't to cure neurodivergence, right? Because again, it's not a sickness, it's not a disease. It's just to optimize the function and improve the quality of life. And anyone who says that aspirin causes this or whatever, Tylenol, come on, man. Now you're just being silly and dangerous. We live in a world that thrives on oversimplification, right? Outrage. And nowhere is this more damaging than in the discourse around neurodiversity. I mean, when you politicize healthcare, mental health care, or otherwise, when politicians and commentators reduce these complex neurobiological realities to laziness, bad parenting, or big pharma scams, they are actively hurting vulnerable participants and populations. You're hurting people, and for what? A couple points from the red meat crowd? I mean, come on. They strip away funding for research. They create barriers to diagnosis, and they perpetuate a culture of shame. You should not be ashamed. You should be yourself. This isn't just ignorance. It is a direct assault on the well-being of millions who are already navigating a fundamentally incompatible world. And quite frankly, let's be real. It's not just politicians. It's not just social media influencers from the red pill group, right? Red pill. Oh, so freaking original, dorks. There's also this thing called TikTok. The TikTok trivialization, right, of a real important thing here. The TikTok trap, if you will. While the platform has democratized conversations around neurodiversity, thanks TikTok, it is a double-edged sword. I mean, for every genuine, self-identifying person sharing their story, there are 10 others creating quirky clips that reduce profound struggles to aesthetics or relatable jokes. And this leads to misinformation and self-diagnosis without any nuance. I mean, people seeing a single symptoms and de- deciding they have ADHD or autism without understanding the broader diagnostic criteria or the impairment required for a diagnosis, it erodes the legitimacy of the people who actually have the issue. Look, when everyone claims to be a little bit ADHD or autistic when I'm tired, it makes it harder for genuinely diagnosed individuals to be taken seriously. Stop it. What happened, guys? What's wrong with you? Can't you just be yourself without being quirky by design? Right? You're cosplaying neurodivergence now? I mean, come on, man. What happened to D&D? Go back and play a wizard or something, right? Look, it fuels the it's not real narrative, right? And people start focusing on the traits instead of the impairment. Guys, neurodiversity isn't just a collection of traits. It is a collection of traits that cause significant distress or impairment in major life areas. If your ADHD makes you uniquely creative but doesn't cause you consistent problems at work, school, or in relationships, it's just a personality trait. It's not ADHD. This distinction is crucial. It is crucial. We have got to anchor ourselves in peer reviewed research, the lived experience of diagnosed individuals, and a compassionate understanding that difference is not deficiency. Difference is not bad. The scientific method, it's slow, it's messy, but it is our most reliable compass in this chaotic landscape. It allows us to move beyond anecdotal garbage evidence, right, from TikTok or politically motivated rhetoric towards real understanding and effective support. Tonight, we opened up the hood on some of the most complex human operating systems out there. For some of you, those checklists, they might have felt like a punch to the gut, a sudden recognition of a lifelong struggle that finally has a name and a context. You're welcome. For others, it might have deepened your understanding of someone you love, or maybe yourself. Remember, these are not bugs. These are not deficiencies. They are features of a different kind of brain. The challenge isn't to fix them, but to understand them and to build environments and strategies that allow them to thrive like every other human being. What is wrong with you people? The world is not designed for neurodivergent brains, right? It's designed for the neurotypical majority. And so the fight for acceptance, right? The fight for accommodation and peace, it is ongoing. And the neurodivergents need the neurotypicals to understand them and to help. Your role, whether neurodivergent or neurotypical, is to educate yourself. You show compassion to people who are different from you, and you reject the noise. Reject the noise. It's 2026. Come on, right? We're not living in the dark ages, fools. Grow up. If this episode had resonated with you, if it sparked a new understanding, or it pissed you off, maybe it validated a lifelong feeling, please hit the like button. You guys, hit that like button. You know you love this stuff. Come on now. If it helps this vital information reach more people, then you need to subscribe to Planting Thoughts for more deep dives into the human minds. I mean, I talked about attraction. I talked about the dark empath in this piece. I talked about the ADHD. I'm going into porn. I mean, we talked about it all here. I mean, everything with psychology, which is everything. Guys, if you're questioning, right? If you're questioning, if those checklists ring true for you, please go out and seek a professional evaluation, because I am not diagnosing and I am not qualified to give you a diagnosis, but I can give you some ideas to work with. Find a neurodivergent affirming therapist, right? Or psychiatrist, because knowing your operating system is the first step to truly optimizing your life. Protect your mind, guys. Respect differences, ladies. And remember, your brain is a marvel, not a mistake. I'm Mike. Go out there and please, for the love of God, plant wisely.